We're now going to take our focus to pigeon pose. Pigeon pose is such a popular pose to practice and such a popular pose that teachers incorporate in their sequences. Now, pigeon pose actually uses a lot of external force when we do it in its typical way. So what we're going to look at here is mainly how to bring your inner wisdom out of the woodwork to understand in your body if using external force is really important for you in your body. So when you get into your pigeon pose, I would love for you to explore the next time that you get on your mat, not just defaulting and going to the exact same position that you've always done, right? We talked about this idea of one-dimensional depth or one-directional depth. Are you getting into pigeon pose, just plonking yourself in the position you normally go into and relaxing your body down? That could definitely be the most beneficial thing for you. However, you will not know if that's going to be the best thing for you unless you play around and you get curious. This is also where we're going to look at getting rid of shoulds and shouldn'ts and do's and don'ts and right and wrong and correct alignment and blah, blah, blah. Those are shackles. Those are boxed in approaches that do not help us in our journey towards becoming empowered in our practice, because we prevent ourselves from from exploring. So I really want you to be curious as we play around with pigeon pose. That is going to be the focus. So we're going to start in a tabletop position, and I'm going to be taking my left leg forward. Whatever leg you want to take forward, that is totally fine. This is about you being curious in your body. So the first thing that we're going to do is just step whatever knee forward that you'd like to use and reach the opposite leg back with the toes tucked under and the back leg quite strong. Now, in this instance, all we're going to do is just start to turn that front foot just a little bit more forward, right? And we're going to stay lifted up nice and high, and you're going to potentially use a block to press the body up, or you can let go and not use your hands at all. So this is our elevated pigeon. And all that we're doing here is we're just getting curious in the body. That's it. I want you to see how this feels in different spots for you. So here what we're doing is we're using strength in order to create hip opening, because hip opening means also hip stability, hip strengthening, and hip flexibility. So you can play around with this elevated position here. The nice thing about something like this is that it can take a bit of pressure off the lower back, particularly if you drop your back knee down and you press through the front knee. We're using the strength of the front glute. You should feel that start to talk to you, that's starting to activate, because when we eventually potentially go into releasing into some more forced flexibility, if you want to, then this muscle, it starts to get a little bit tired and fatigued. It's a technique called resistance stretching. So from here, we've played around, we've been curious in this. Do I like my back knee lifted? Do I like my back knee down? Do I like my body forward? Do I like my body lifted? Do I like my hands away from the ground? Do I like this foot to come a little bit more forward? Let's play around with that now. So you can slide that front foot a little bit forward and see where you're at. Again, now that you've slid the front foot forward, do you want the hands to come down? Do you want the back knee to lift? How do you want to play with this? There are so many variables in the body, and then when we combine those variables together, we get a totally unique pose that is suitable to us. So I want you to take your hands forward, and now we're going to focus on the hip component of this. So you're going to lean into the hands, and you're going to start to squeeze your heel to the back of the leg. Now notice when you do that, does this lift up? Now the reason why that would lift up is because this is a little bit tight and it shortens. So don't be so concerned with bringing the heel in closer if it means the butt's going to lift, because this is just shortening. We want that to lengthen. So let the leg come down, a little scoop of your pubic bone forward, a little press and a rounding into the upper back, and then start to see if you can maintain those things as you draw the heel in towards the back of the body. Now for me right now, I'm actually starting to get a little cramp in my hamstring. Yeah, and that's great because the hamstring activation supports the quadricep release. This is again our reciprocal inhibition. One muscle contracts, which naturally, reflexively opens up the opposing muscle. That cramp is gone now, so yay for me. Squeeze the heel into the back of the body. Now again, play with your variables. Do I want to lift the chin? Do I want to come onto the fingertips? If I lift my body up, does my butt go like this? How does it feel when you add these different things together? Do you want to change what's happening with this front foot? Let's let the back leg release. Roll to the buttocks on that front leg and bring the legs forward. So in that first side, what we looked at was variables, how we can play around with them, and how we can put the focus on pigeon pose, not just on the front leg, but on the back leg as well by bending that knee in. So we're now going to do the other side and just focus on a few different things in relation to more of the torso and how the torso and curiosity with where the arms are and where the chest is, how that can play a role as well. So again, start on your hands and knees, and whatever leg you took forward last time, take that one back. And again, take the opposite leg forward. You can come up onto your fingertips, you can press up onto a block, totally up to you. And again, maybe the back knee is lifted, maybe it's part way down, maybe it's all the way down, and you're gonna bring that foot forward. Now this is another thing in pigeon pose that we often get really carried away with. This shin. The shin needs to be parallel to the top of the mat. That's what it means for the pose to be deeper. We don't look at one-dimensional depth in the undoing yoga method. We look at multi-dimensional, multi-directional depth. So we're going to look at the whole body in relation to this leg. So if it feels better for you to have the shin forward and you drop down like this and the hips are twisting open, generally that's going to be more of a groin stretch. But if you want to relocate the stretch to the hip flexor and to the buttocks on that front leg, then you want to bring your hips a little bit more neutral. So in that case, maybe you use a block underneath so that you can have this shin a little bit more parallel, but only if you feel that it benefits you, only if you feel that it's working in your body. This is where you need to be curious and have a play with things. So take some time to just feel into where you want that front shin, where you want the back knee, and if you feel that you need something underneath you. Now we're going to play around with the torso. So we can be square on. We can just simply turn the head from one side to the other. We can be upright and lift the arms off the ground. Generally what we do and what we think is typically the best thing for pigeon is that we just come down and maybe relax into it. And that is definitely an approach that can work for some people. But if you are wanting to really build up a specific approach to this pose that works for you, I would play around with where your body is. For me personally, I really feel better when I lean towards my front leg and I twist my torso towards the front leg. You might feel better when you just walk your body towards that front knee, or maybe when you walk your hands away from the front leg. Be curious in your body, have a little play. That's what this is for. Every time you move the torso and you move the head, it's going to have an impact on these hips. And when this back hip drops down and forward, it's going to feel different in your body than when this back hip opens up. So again, no right or wrong. It only exists within the context of what you want to achieve. So have a little play around. You might find that going down is not the right thing for you. Maybe that you want to stay up. For me, if I stay up, I need to open up my lower back a little bit. So I lift away from the ground and I go really active in my body. And that's what feels quite good for me to have happy hips. Happy hips for me is not coming down and relaxing and letting gravity force my body into flexibility. This is your journey for you to figure out. Let's take 3 more breaths here in Pigeon. Again, feeling into what's working for you. Maybe it's a twist. Maybe it's a reach. Maybe it's leaning forward. The knee bends as you scoop the pubic bone. And let's slowly come out of it. Pressing through your hands and back into tabletop.